أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Welcome everyone back to Always Receiving More weekly Quran study. We are continuing to journey in Surah 31, chapter called Luqman. And last time we stopped at verse 12, I believe. And does anybody want to share anything from last time?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
It was about these signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Khalaqat samawat, then about earth and the mountains. I just wanted to make a point that, I had done a presentation on mountains. And 24% of the globe has mountains, and if there were no mountains, there would be no men on the earth. It's that important. And just a scientific fact, which is very fascinating. And for the big samawat, we don't need any pillars, but for the earth, we need pillars, which are, pegs. The mountains are supposed to be pegs. So without no mountains, actually no moon, no mountains, no men on the earth. It's that, finely tuned. Just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, in verse 10.
Right, verse 10 about Ravasi and, Samawat with Baghairi Amadin Tarawnahat. The one we read it in Surah Rad, the same verse.
He has created his skies without any support of his has placed firm mountains upon the earth, so that it does not shake with you. And he has caused all kinds of living creatures to multiply their own. And we send down water from the skies, and thus we cause every noble kind of life to grow on earth. And then the next verse draw out the implication of all this. If there is this fine-tuning and planning, which is purposeful, which is serving our needs and living creatures, then the next verse is saying, all this is God's creation. Show me then what others than Him may have created. Nay, but the evildoers are obviously lost in error. And our assignment was to really take apart this notion and to pose. How often do we do this? How often do we live with this awareness of every single thing is in God's control and only under His power and will. And we will continue today to see how this defines the boundary between real wisdom and foolishness.
Yeah. Sura, can I make a point?
Yeah.
All these things, these two verses, 10 and 11, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating a discussion and presenting His, ayats to do. Actually, there's a word which is very unique in the Quran, tawassum. I came across it. It's only in 2 verses, and the one is I mentioned last time, it is to connect the spiritual universe and to connect the dots and then figure it out that if this is the creation, then obviously there has to be one creator and, the Tawheed, basically. So that it's I think it comes after Tadabbur and all that. It's the last thing that, so basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating a hujjah or a proof that you see, If you're not impressed with the samawat, then how about the mountains? And then how about the rain? And how about all those things that are spread out, male and female plants? That includes plants and animal kingdom, everything which we keep discovering every day, new species. So if that doesn't impress you, then tell me if, how about your false gods, have they done? So this is a hujjah. It's kind of a, analysis, critical analysis that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to figure out in our brain and use and come to a conclusion. I think that was the point to, that's what I could do the tadabbur on for these two verses.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. So maybe without further delay, we'll turn to Sister Yamina to lead us in tonight's session, and feel free to share anything along the way, any questions you might have or any thoughtful reflections you may want to share. You're welcome to do so. So, Bismillah, Sister Yamina. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم افتح لنا أبواب حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Assalamu alaikum again. So we did stop at ayah 11 of Surah Luqman. We just mentioned the 12th ayah, and inshallah today we're going to start from there. And ayah 10 and 11 were an invitation to reflect on the creation and to see how it points to God's power and will. And it is, in a sense, a tadabbur, an invitation to tadabbur. Tadabbur, however, as we understand in the Quran, is not only an intellectual activity. It's not only in the brain. It happens also. It involves all the senses, so that the heart also is touched, because it is when we are in awe that we prostrate before the divine power and the divine will, and we surrender and submit. So that's why description is very, there is imagery, there is things that makes us think, for sure, but also moves the heart and makes us surrender wholly, totally, with all our senses, inshallah. And we did at the end mention how foolish it is to live in the world without the consciousness of the divine everywhere, in everything, here and now. And the pose that Isra referred to last week, that we mentioned last week, was to actually stop and reflect on these signs, on these verses, on these ayats, as speaking to me now, here. And so what am I saying to this? I may intellectually say, yes, truth, this is what science says. I did actually look at the creation, and I'm convinced that it is God's creation. That's a big step, of course, alhamdulillah. And there is the next step is, okay, so now, if this is God's creation, so how do you live your life? Are you living your life accordingly with this awareness? Because once I know this, if I truly know it and accept it as the reality, then it will transform my life. It will transform how how I perceive things around me, because then everything will be, everything's existence will be an ayah, will be, will have, the purpose of their existence is to point to the Creator, to the Creator's attribute, to His will, to His power, to His, to the akhirah, to that ghaib, that unseen, that this world is not the end of everything, but just a flowing, it's something that's flowing and permanently changing. And so I can take it as my point of reference, because it's something that's all the time changing. And so my point of reference becomes that permanent world where everything is flowing from and going to. And that will change everything in our life, how we perceive things, our priorities in life. For instance, giving charity or sharing something I value. If this world is the reality, why should I? And it will be very difficult, because I will be attached to the things themselves. I will value them for themselves. But when they become gifts and signs coming from my Rabb, my sustainer, to tell me about His infinite sustainership, His generosity, His compassion, so it will be easier to share them with those who need them, and maybe they need them more than me. And that sharing will be also an affirmation and a confirmation of my new outlook, my living in the world with awareness of akhirah, with awareness that this world is impermanent, and it points to a realm of permanence, that I am here not forever. I'm on a journey, a traveler. And that was the beginning of hikmah, or wisdom. And when I forget about this, when I live with the fantasy that this world is all there is, or this world is as though it is permanent, I know it is not, but I live and make my choices and everything as though it is permanent, then all my thoughts and my feelings and my words and my action are going to be according to that way of being, to that way of perceiving the world. And that is foolishness, or at least it's very far from hikmah and wisdom, and it is tainted with shirk. Because remember, we even had a whole monthly teleconference on the relationship between seeing the world, forgetting that the world is impermanent, and perceiving it as though perceiving it or interacting with everything in it as though it is permanent. They are permanent. That was there was a connection to shirk there, because then we are totally attached to things in themselves, for themselves. We don't see that they are just mirror-like, reflecting something that is not from them, that they are pointing to something beyond themselves. So after that, I don't know if we need to go. Let me just start from the beginning, so we have an idea of where we're coming from. So the beginning of this surah starts with Alif Lam Mim. Alif Lam Mim. Those are the signs of the wise book, providing guidance and mercy to the muhsinin, who establish worship and pay the poor due, and of the hereafter they are certain. These are ulaika. Those are following their Lord's guidance, and those are the prosperous. And there are people who purchase baseless idle stories to mislead from the path of God without knowledge, and they ridicule it those will have a humiliating retribution. And whenever our signs are conveyed unto him, he turns away in his arrogance as if he had not heard them, as if there were a deafness in his ears. Give him then the tidings of a grievous suffering. For those who believe and work righteous deeds, there will be gardens of constant, perpetual blessings to abide therein in accordance with God's true promise, for he alone is almighty, truly wise. And we see this repetition of the book of wisdom and God being almighty and wise. And then what we reflected on last week was he it is who has created the skies without any supports that you could see, and has placed firm mountains upon the earth lest it shakes with you, and has caused all kinds of living creatures to multiply thereon. And we send down waters from the skies, and thus we cause every noble kind of life to grow on earth. All this is God's creation. Show me then what others than he may have created. Nay, but the evildoers are obviously lost in error. And now, ayah 13. And indeed we granted wisdom unto Luqman. Be grateful unto God, for he who is grateful unto him is but grateful for the good of his own self. Whereas he who chooses to be ungrateful, then truly God is self-sufficient, ever to be praised. And lo, Luqman spoke thus unto his son, admonishing him, O my dear son, do not ascribe partners with God, do not commit shirk. For behold, such shirk, such ascribing partners with God, is indeed an awesome injustice. وَلَقَدْ أَتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِلَّهِ وَمَنْ يَشْكُرْ فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. So I'll start with the literal apparent meaning, and we'll see how it is connected to all the ayat that came before 12, to all the ayat from 1 to 10. And actually, it is because we read ayah 1 to 10 to 11 that when we came to 12, I was just reading and listening and saying, so how is it related? And then when you ask the question, subhanallah, Allah answers. As long as we don't take it for granted that we know, because we don't know. And what we know is not the answer, because what we know may be right, may be something that I learned before, but if I'm reading this now, if it has been revealed, it is guidance, it is a new guidance, it is something that I would not be able to know without the guidance of this ayat, because otherwise it will be like in vain. These ayat were revealed just to repeat. God does not just repeat himself. Each repetition is a new revelation at the same time. And so in this ayat, it's saying, we granted wisdom unto Luqman. So it's important because hikmah, wisdom in the Quran, is always given. It's not something that we can work for ourselves or strive for on our own. It is given. And what is the wisdom that was given to Luqman alayhi salam? وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِلَّهِ. So the wisdom that we gave to, that we granted to Luqman is, be grateful to God. Subhanallah. So being grateful to God is the wisdom that was granted to him. And it's explaining Why? It's saying because if you're grateful for your own good. Whoever is grateful for his own self. Whereas he who chooses to be ungrateful, وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. So God is self-sufficient. He doesn't need your gratitude. Your gratitude is for yourself, not for God. And he's ever to be praised. He's Hamid. He's the one praised anyway, whether you participate in that praising or not. Everything in the creation praises him. And even our praising, even when we praise his creation, when we praise things themselves in themselves, indirectly we're praising him, because whatever we're praising in those things belongs to him alone. So this ayah is telling us that wisdom is in being grateful. And being grateful is a state. This indicates a state of being. Usually when we think of gratitude, when we think of being grateful, we think of a situation where we are offered a blessing, then we are grateful for it. When we think gratitude, we think we're grateful for something. And that's something, if we believe that it deserves gratitude, it means it's something that we appreciate, something, let's call it a blessing. And so it sounds like this kind of gratitude, our understanding of gratitude is conditional. It's conditional on the blessing first, then the gratitude. And this attitude also means that when I see no blessings, when in my perception there is no blessings, it means that I won't be grateful, I won't feel great gratitude. So this means not only that my being grateful depends on the blessing, on the existence of a blessing out there, it also means, and this is more important, that my being grateful depends on whether I see blessings around me in my life or not. So if I see a blessing, I am grateful. If I don't see anything to be grateful for, I am not grateful. It means the point of reference is who here? It's myself. It means that I consider myself to be the perceiver of the blessing, the detector, the decider that there is blessing or no blessing, and therefore I'm grateful or not grateful. And according to what? According to what do I decide? Well, usually what I like is blessing, what I don't like isn't. It's like a child. If you ask a child, they would say all candies and chocolates and everything is blessing, is something nice to be grateful for. And all the rest of the food in the kitchen, especially green veggies and spinach and kale and thing, for them that's not blessing at all. Actually, they may not even like eating it. We force them more. We say it's good for you and things, and they don't really believe it because it doesn't taste good. So their criteria is taste good or not. And so in this attitude is very reminiscent of a childlike attitude, as if I know, whereas I don't know. My knowledge, what I know is so limited that I can't know what's beneficial for me or not tomorrow, because I have no idea what will happen tomorrow. I don't know all my needs. I'm not aware of everything. And yet, in that unawareness, in that state of ghafla, I imagine myself to be the one who decides about what's blessing or not, and therefore to be grateful or not. And this is a sign of,
if I could just briefly note here, when you initially said why are we making ourselves as the criteria, my immediate response was, of course I'm going to be the criteria, because if I'm going to be grateful, then it should be something that I can feel as a blessing. It shouldn't be something that somebody's telling me this is a blessing. But then, of course, you're not talking about in this sense of first-hand experiencing and responding in gratitude. You're more like, you reminded me of this child I heard that he was telling this to his mom. He said, "You don't give me what I want, I don't like you." And the mother was saying something like, "It's time to sleep," or "You can't have this candy before dinner," something like this, like something very reasonable and good for him. And the child was so frustrated. He said, "I don't like you because you don't give me what I want." And then this child was also comparing with his dad. He's like, "My dad gives me what I want. You don't give me what I want. I don't like you." And this child, when you think about it, it's childish and funny and silly, but then you're inviting us to think of it in context of our relationship to our Rabb, because we get into this attitude where I'm frustrated because God didn't give me what I want. He still doesn't give me what I want. We've been telling him to give it to me and he's not giving. And this kind of relationship has to we have to have a breakthrough this kind of short-sighted attitude to blessing, if we are going to understand the verse here that invites us to gratitude.
That you touch actually on a point that we, from time to time, I like to emphasize, which is the difference between my need for the blessing, for the thing out there, and the thing out there itself. And usually we say, like, what makes, for instance, what we call food, what makes it a blessing is the fact that I have hunger and need it. Otherwise, in itself, by itself, food may not be a blessing for another kind of creation. For a stone, it's not. Or something that is a blessing for one kind of creature may not be a blessing for another. So it's not the thing itself outside without my need for it. So when you said that if I'm grateful, of course, there will be something that I like. Yes, but I may not be aware. Liking there is an ambiguous word, because the blessing is something that fulfills a need. And sometimes I'm not aware that something is fulfilling a need. Because I'm not aware of my needs. And something that I like candied chocolate, may be harmful for my health. Maybe too much of it, or maybe sometimes just a little of it may be harmful. So there is a difference between the thing out there and my relationship with the thing out there. And when we are in that state of unawareness, and first it's a sign of being disconnected from my Rabb. And when I'm disconnected from my Rabb, I will be disconnected from my needs, because I am disconnected from being a abd. I'm not aware that I'm a abd. It means I'm not aware that I have needs, and my needs are being taken care of. If I were aware, I would look for my Rabb and I would find him. He will reveal, that's how he reveals himself to me. And I'm not talking about knowledge of it, because we may have all the information. We may agree with all the information, but how do we feel in our hearts? How do we live on a day-to-day in our life? So yes, that was, I also thought like a child example is a good example of our state of being disconnected from my Rabb. And actually, when we don't know who we are, aren't we like a child, like children? For a child, it's normal to not know, because he's still discovering. But when we are adults and still not aware of who we are. We are children in the way that we have not matured yet, awareness-wise. And so when we are in that state of being, when we are disconnected from our Rabb, and in that disconnected state, we are very susceptible to shirk or shirky perception, or let's say our perception becomes tainted with shirk. I'm, how do you say, minimizing it, because actually in one specific moment we are either connected or disconnected. It's like electricity. It's either light connected and there is light, disconnected and there isn't. But I'm saying tainted because it may not be our, most of the time, it is not our intention. And that's why we want to learn the wisdom so that we are most of the time connected, inshallah. And why is our perception tainted with shirk? Because when we are in that state, it seems to us that things are good in themselves or they are bad in themselves. Unrelated to my need, because I'm not even aware, unrelated to its maker. It seems to me that I exist independently of my creator. Remember when we talked about that in which surah was that? I think Surah Al-A'la. So the one who imagines that he is independent of his creator. And in that state, it seems like I exist independently. I don't need anything. I mean, I need some food and things, but like I'm still here as if on my own. And so things seem to exist on their own, and they are good or bad on their own. Water itself gives me this sense of fulfillment. And so my gratitude in that state of ghafla is due to their goodness, to their help, and it goes to them. And I strive in my work, in my life, to have more of those possessions and to secure my life and my happiness, or whatever we think we're doing. And so when I'm in that state, I'm not truly aware of my Rabb and of my ubudiyah, my being abd. I know I am abd, but I'm not. That's not how it feels on a daily basis. And so everything else, I'm not aware that everything else is being created here and now. They are being given existence because we project. I only see and I'm aware and conscious and feel that their existence is dependent on their creator when I am aware that my existence, my every breath is not under my control, but under someone else's control, whom, as I get to know him, I call my Rabb, my compassionate sustainer, my generous host. And so when we are in that disconnected state, in that ghafla state, our heart is not truly dedicated to God, not truly committed to ubudiyah. And that's why there is no yaqeen, there is no certainty of the hereafter. This world seems quite solid on its own. And so my knowledge and my heart and my actions are not in alignment. My knowledge says something, but my heart and my actions say something different. They contradict each other. And my purpose in that situation is not to consciously worship God alone. God is there, but there are so many other things that are just as important, if not sometimes more important, or so they seem to me in my illusion. And so it's interesting in that in the Quran, whenever we talk, we told many times that we are made to perceive the signs We shall show them our signs on the horizons and within the self, the famous سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم. And these signs, these ayat, are supposed to remind us of who we are, what everything is about, and therefore to put us back into that state of gratitude. That's why just before ayah 12, we were again reminded of the signs in creation, which means reminded that, hey, this world is not what you think. You're not here to stay. These are all here for another purpose. Like, what are you doing? Why are you collecting them? You're not here to keep, you can't keep them. You're here, they are, and you are here only for a short period of time. And that's why in the Quran we told you, يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ آيَاتِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. God makes clear to you his signs so that you may be grateful. Or كَذَلِكَ نُصَرِّفُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَشْكُرُونَ. This is how we recount, this is how we show you our signs so that you may be grateful. So this being grateful is very connected to being aware of the signs. And being aware of the signs means being aware that things are signs and we are not, they're not there for themselves, they are not they don't have independent existence. And so when I am grateful unconditionally, it says, what is wisdom? And ishkur lillah, be grateful to God. So if I take this, that means I'm grateful unconditionally. Of course, unconditionally in my perception. It means whatever the circumstances. Because for the muhsin, of course, there are so many things to be grateful for. But in the beginning, it means that I rely on my Rabb. I trust him. Whatever it seems to me, we have to make that leap of faith, that leap of trusting. Do you have enough evidence of your Rabb? Do you have enough evidence in the creation, in your creation, in the creation around you? Do you actually believe that you're given an existence here and now? Okay, now take a step. If you want to sustain this awareness, this knowledge, this knowing, then be grateful. And be grateful whatever is happening. And because in the beginning, it seems to me that, but some things I don't like, like the child. He says, okay, just be grateful. Don't you trust? Should trust him. Trust your Rabb. Rely on him. And that state of being grateful unconditionally is a state of being that makes us open to receive that wisdom, that hikmah that is so precious that we're told, وَمَنْ أُوتِيَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Whoever has been granted wisdom has been granted great goodness. So this gratitude stems from wisdom, because when I take that leap of faith, that's the beginning of wisdom. I actually made a step into the house of wisdom, let's say, into the realm of wisdom. I put if I take another metaphor, I put the switch on. Now, wisdom will come to me. I am open to receiving it. Because when I say that I will be grateful only when I have something to be grateful for, I am already disconnected, because I think I decide about what is good or bad for me. I know, and that's it. In that state, I'm not abd, and there is no Rabb. In that little bubble, there is no ab, there are no Rabb. And so I'm disconnected. I cannot receive wisdom. That's foolishness. But when I make that leap of faith based on evidence, of course, then that gratitude, which yields wisdom or makes us open to receiving the wisdom, and it sustains that wisdom. It sustains that channeling of wisdom, that mirroring or reflecting divine wisdom. And that state is a state of the muhsin. The muhsin is the one who lives in the presence, in the awareness that he is abd, in the awareness of his Rabb. And so this, that first step is a step towards, yes, I want to live with ihsan. And when I take one step, then wisdom is given to me to sustain that awareness. And it's like in the Qudsi hadith when it says, if you take one step towards me, I take 10 steps towards you, subhanallah. That's why we say, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. So you can see there is a connection between wisdom and gratitude and tawheed. Tawheed meaning I am a abd and I know my Rabb. And conditional gratitude is connected with shirk, and therefore disconnection with, cannot receive wisdom. Because I'm in my own bubble, I decide, I think I'm the source of my own, what I think is wisdom, but is actually foolishness at the end. And this is why Luqman alayhi salam first tells his son, he doesn't, now you've been taught hikmah is be grateful. So the first thing you tell your child, be grateful. Yes, but in order to be grateful, something else is needed. It's to stay away from shirk. Because if I'm in a state of shirk, if I think that I need things for themselves in themselves, I cannot be grateful. I will say, yes, but I also need this, I also need that. How can I be grateful when all this is not working, when all these things that I like are not going on, or when all these things that I dislike are going on? And of course, I'm not aware that maybe something that I dislike is going on, but it is teaching me something that's really worthwhile when I look at it from the perspective of akhirah, from the perspective of eternal life. And so look what he says to his son. The first thing is stay away from shirk. But in the next ayah, Luqman salam says, oh my dear son, Ya bunay la tushrik billah, inna shirka la dhulmun azim. So, oh dear son, do not commit shirk, do not ascribe partners with God. For shirk is indeed an awesome wrong, an awesome injustice. And firstly, it is an injustice to ourselves. We deprive ourselves of wisdom, the wisdom that makes us live a life that is fruitful, transform our lives from a mortal, impermanent life to an eternal life that bears eternal fruits. SubhanAllah, just like you cannot even compare the two. It's not wisdom and foolishness. One is wisdom and the other one is madness, more than foolishness, when you really stop and think, reflect about it. So it is when we are grateful that we are open to receive the wisdom, which transforms our perception of ourselves, our perception of the world, and which, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, makes us see and benefit from rahmah everywhere. We'll start seeing the rahmah, we'll start seeing wajhillah, we will start seeing that aspect of everything that looks to the divine, beautiful divine names in everything. When we are given that rahmah, it becomes easier to be grateful. And that's why وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. The more you are grateful, the more we will give you. Subhanallah, it will increase. And as our wisdom will increase, it will become easier and easier to be grateful, because we will find that there are so many things to be grateful for. What was that ayah? وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا.
Yeah.
And all these ayats actually are from Surah Ibrahim. Subhanallah, there must be a connection. And it's repeated, this وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا is repeated in the Quran more than once. Subhanallah. So usually reason, which means reason, when I say reason, from what I learned from Imam Badiou Zaman Said Nursi, it's that reason that follows the nafs, that reason that has not been elevated to the level of the heart, that selfish reason, that foolish reason, that childish, let's say, in a more compassionate way, because it still thinks like a small child. For a small child, it's okay, it makes it smile. It seems like the other way around. Let me see the rahmah, the blessing first, and then I'll be grateful. Then no wisdom, because I am not open to the wisdom, because I'm saying I myself, I am the point of reference. I am the one who decides what's good and bad. There is no prostration before my Rabb. There is no recognition even of my Rabb in this attitude. But when I surrender and I say yes, gratitude everywhere, and like when you say, you don't have to look for a specific reason, but when you decide to be grateful, you will find so many things to be grateful for. And then you will start seeing, the beauty and the wisdom and the purpose in everything, even those unwanted things. And we will realize that it's not like I don't want them. I was made to not want them, to not like them. And that itself is a sign. That itself is hikmah. That itself is beautiful, and it is rahmah. But when I am disconnected, I think, I don't like it. Why is it here? Subhanallah. It's more like a Pharaoh-like attitude, without realizing. So when we think, I'm repeating again, that I need to see the blessing, I need to see the rahmah, then I'll be grateful. I'm getting it there, though. I'm putting the cart before the horse. That gratitude, even if I'm grateful for what comes, it won't last, because it depends on the outer conditions, and the outer conditions are always changing. And I change. The same thing may be there, but that's it. I get used to it. I don't need it as much, or I don't think I need it as much, and that gratitude, that conditional gratitude, disappears. So it does not even bring peace. It doesn't satisfy my heart. So hikmah, wisdom, is to realize that whatever the conditions, I know that it is from my compassionate Rabb, and I trust him. And so I am grateful whatever comes my way. And then I will be able to find the rahmah in everything. And I am not dependent on things themselves. I do not get into that trap, that shirk trap anymore. So this is a very, very practical, pragmatic solution. Be grateful. So in gratitude or conditional gratitude, because sometimes we are not ungrateful, but we are grateful conditionally. Both are related to shirk. which is the illusion that things themselves will satisfy us, will protect us, will provide us, give us joy or whatever we seek from them, apart from Rabbul Alameen, apart from the source of all the goodness, the source of all beauty and perfection, the source of all the divine names, because He alone is the protector, He alone is the healer, He alone is the source of beauty. And now we see how this 31, 12 and 13 connect us to the first and second ayah of this surah, when we were told that this book is full of hikmah and guidance. This book for هذا Quran al-Hakim, this book full of hikmah, this wise book, is hudan wa rahmatan, is guidance and rahmah to whom? To the muhsins. It is full of wisdom. It is guidance and rahmah all the time. But it means only the muhsins will see that aspect of the Quran, will interact with the Quran from that perspective, and will benefit from it from that perspective. Subhanallah. So the very first condition of wisdom, and therefore of true knowing, through knowledge, through ma'rifah and insight, basira, that is granted by God, is to be grateful to our Rabb. And this gratefulness, this gratitude, is a way of being. It's not something that we do once and then forget. It is a way of being. Inshallah, it becomes our way of being. And that way of being is going to transform, it's going to translate into thoughts, into feelings, into words, into deeds. And that's how the muhsin, you see his ihsan radiating into the world. And so gratitude towards God alone is a conscious state of the heart and of the soul. And in that state, we always acknowledge that all favors are from Him. Not only that all favors are from Him alone, but also that whatever is created with purpose, with meaning. ما خلقت هذا باطلا. Nothing is created just like that, in vain, without purpose and meaning, so that we have a reason to be ungrateful. There is no reason to be ungrateful. That's just our forgetting who we are, nothing else. The moment we remember who we are, Ibadullah, and we remember who our host is, there is no way not to prostrate in gratitude, inshallah. And of course, it's also telling us, hey, your gratitude, it doesn't benefit anything to God. It's for you. Just in case we didn't get it right, this helps us. It helps our ego calm down, because, ego says, well, but why should I, and things. It's for you. God does not need your gratitude. Subhanallah. So if we want wisdom, and remember, wisdom is something very, very precious. يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء ومن يؤتي الحكمة فقد أوتي خيرا كثيرا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب. Remember, we talked also about who ulul albab are, those who have that inner, in their innermost, in their heart, they know, but it's not a knowledge, information only, or yes, I accept that. It's like a certainty that those are ulul albab. So granting wisdom, God grants wisdom unto whom He wills, and whoever is granted wisdom has indeed been granted abundant wealth. But none keeps this in mind except those who are endowed with insight. So we want wisdom, And believe me, without wisdom, we won't be able to sail the ship of life safely. We won't be able to get to the other side safely. So we need this wisdom. It's not even a choice. We need it. And what we learned here, this beautiful surah with this beautiful ayah, so easy. Subhanallah, so easy. Be grateful to God and to God only. So make the intention. Make the intention. Decide and choose to be grateful now without waiting for a particular specific reason to be grateful. When you make that decision, you will find so many reasons. As we are told, إن تعدوا نعمة الله لا تحصوها. If there are so many reasons, as if you should you try to count God's blessing, you would never be able to compute them. So just make that move, make that intention, and remind each other, be grateful to God alone. Subhanallah. And there is this beautiful ayah in Surah Al-Nahl which says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَغَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Because in Surah Ibrahim it says, وَأَتَاكُم مِّن كُلِّ مَا سَأَلْتُمُوهُ وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَظَلُومٌ كَفَّارٌ. Which is true, really. Really, I'm talking about myself. So how can we forget? How can we do this again and again? It says, God gave you, He gives you something of all what you may be asking of Him. And if you try to count His blessings, God's blessing, you can't even compute them. And yet, look at human being. He's indeed most persistent in wrongdoing, ظلوم, and kafar. He's stubborn in his ingratitude. But in Surah Al-Nahl, gives us the same message, but from a different attitude, perspective. It says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَغَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. If you try to count God's blessings, you can never compute them. Behold, God is indeed much forgiving, much compassionate. And Alhamdulillah that He is Ghafurun Rahim, because truly we are Zalumun Kaffar. A human being is Zalumun Kaffar. But in return to this, we have this Ghafurun Rahim, this forgiving Rabb. So when we notice that we've drifted away from that state of gratitude, whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter, because we make up so many reasons, and just make istighfar. Ask for forgiveness, because He is the forgiver, He is the Ghafur, and He loves forgiving. And as the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, he taught us, Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Oh God, you are most forgiving and you love forgiveness, so forgive me. So He's not only forgiving, we're told He loves forgiveness. He loves forgiving us. So it may seem like a daunting task to remain in gratitude, but it's not, because it has been made easy. All what we need is to have the intention and surrender, that willingness, which means you may drift away from gratitude, no problem. As soon as you notice it, make istighfar and come back. Make istighfar and come back. And if we keep doing this, what do you think will happen? If we persist in surrendering and being grateful and making istighfar whenever our nafs pulls us away from that beautiful state, that blessed state of gratitude, after a while it will get easier and easier, because after a while we will start seeing more and more of the rahmah and the beauty that will make us, that will beckon on us to be grateful um, around us more and more. So it'll become easier and easier to remain in that state of gratitude, whatever seems to be happening outside of us. And the result will be that state of inner certainty, that yaqeen, and that peace and satisfaction that we are told, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ, that it's mi'nan of the muhsin who remembers his Rabb all the time in everything. And this will reflect on our thoughts, on our words, on our actions, inshallah and bi'idhnillah. So we will find ourselves anchored in ubudiyah, in our ubudiyah. That ubudiyah becomes more firm. It's not shaky, you know. Now it feels like shaky, like we're there for a minute and then for days we're in another world, practically. And that's why we ask God to anchor us in that state of belief, in that state of ihsan, in that state of ubudiyah, in that state of awareness. And we are also told that God promises that He grants firmness to those who believe. يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة. Subhanallah. God grants firmness to the believers, to those who believe, الذين آمنوا, who have believed, through the word that is unshakably true in the life of this world, as well as in the life to come. And we are also told, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تنصروا الله ينصركم ويثبت أقدامكم. O you who have believed, if you help God, and we know, if you are grateful to God, and it's for us, it's not for Him, He doesn't need our help. When I'm helping God, I'm helping myself. He will help you. You will realize that He is the one who helps you. You will realize that when I'm grateful, I will realize how much everything is actually a gift, a blessing. Even my very existence, my very being aware, being conscious, being a human being is itself a great blessing. And so if you help God, He will help you and will make your steps firm. But يثبت. Subhanallah, subhanallah. And the angels even are told to give firmness unto the believers. إذ يوحي ربك إلى الملائكة أني معكم فثبتوا الذين آمنوا. Your Rabb, your sustainer, inspired the angels to tell the believers, to convey His message to the believers, I am with you. Subhanallah, how beautiful. God is telling the angels to let us know that He's telling us, I am with you. With you who? The believers, those who believe. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those who have believed. And when you believe, you will know that He is with us everywhere. You will see His signs everywhere. You will see that everything is reflecting His rahmah and His help and His presence. And He commands the angels and give firmness unto those who have attained, to those who have believed. Subhanallah, subhanallah. So then it will become easier and easier to trust our Rabb. And as God promised us, وَإِن تَأَذَّنَ رَبَّكُمْ لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, as I said before, if you are grateful to me, I shall most certainly give you more and more and more. There will be more and more reasons to be grateful. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. It's a beautiful ayah from the Quran. It says, and O our Rabb, O our sustainer, forgive us our sins and the lack of moderation in our doings, and make our steps firm, and help us against those who deny the truth, the ingrateful, the ungrateful. Ameen. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Thank you. I think let's stop here, because I feel that this is an overwhelming teaching. Subhanallah. And it's very, very practical. You want wisdom? Be grateful. Be grateful to God alone. It's easy to check ourselves again and again. And don't try to make istighfar when you are not. And if you find that you are pulled there and you can't come back, then you have to go back to 13. Ayah 13, which is do not ascribe partners with God. The problem must be somewhere I'm ascribing partners with God. Somewhere I am not aware that I am abd. I'm making myself I'm deciding about, I'm fantasizing, imagining that I'm deciding about my life when I'm not. The reality is that I'm not. I cannot even control my own breath, and I don't even know when I will leave this world. Where I will be when I will be leaving. I can only pray that inshallah I will live with Iman. إلا مع الشهادة والإيمان إن شاء الله. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين.
Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you, Sister Amina. And dear friends, is there anybody who wants to share comment or ask a question? It was a very packed session.
I give a chance before I ask. So before I comment or ask, does anyone want to precede me? I'll go after you. I just had a quick question. I didn't want to interrupt Sister Yamina, but when she was explaining about hikmah, it's a quick one, so I'll go first. Hikmah is the end point of, shukr, I thought, is also the end point of the hikmah. The connection. I was trying to say that all the ibadah, ends with the shukr. So was that the point you were making, or
it's
about the shukr and hikmah?
They work both ways. When we make shukr, we are open to receiving the hikmah. The more we receive hikmah, the more we will be able to make shukr, because we will be able to read the signs with that hikmah, and to interpret the sign and see the rahmah and the purpose in everything. So it's like a cycle. So it's both ways. More shukr, but it starts where shall I start? Because hikmah looks to God's will, God's grace. God is going to give it to us or not. So that's not my concern. That part is not my concern. It will be given. My concern, my responsibility, what I can do is be grateful. That's something that looks to me. As I am grateful, we are told the promise is that you will be given the wisdom, inshallah.
Yeah, and the shukr is not lip service, it's action as well, right? So
yes, inshallah.
Okay, go ahead, Alia. Thanks. Jazakallah kulli khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Yamina. May Allah, inshallah, give you the barakah of the time that you put in bringing this to us and the simplification of it. So I love the ayah that you ended with, and it always strikes me the equation, and I know that you discussed that before, the equation, that ayah, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. So the more grateful we are, the more we get. But then the second part of it is the scary part. وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ فَإِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. And if you, so like when you think, what is the opposite of shukr? So the opposite of shukr, grateful, is ungrateful. And the word that Allah is using, it doesn't say if you're not making thanks. It says وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ, like, and if you are kafir. وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ, and if you are kafir, so if you are ungrateful, and then here ungrateful equals kafir in this sense, فَإِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. Indeed, my punishment is going to be severe. So it seems the equation has two parts. You're either in a state of gratefulness that brings peace and wisdom, or the opposite, which is the ungrateful state, is a very painful state. Like this state that has a lot of like unsettlement and anxiety, stress, all that comes, all those things that we actually feel every day. And that scares me because I know the times that I'm stressed and anxious and unsettled, and the times I feel at peace. And obviously the times that I feel at peace personally are the times that I'm in a state of gratitude. And the times that I'm in the state of inner turmoil and stress and palpitations and like all of that and anxiety, I don't call it ungratefulness, but it must be ungratefulness, because underneath that there is this I'm worried about this happening or not, and I'm unhappy about this that I did that I should have done another way, and I'm worried about this person or myself doing this that I would not like them to do, and should I be able to? So there's a lot of this anxiety that we think I'm anxious about something, I'm worried for own punishment. It's not punishment, it's not what we bring on ourselves. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. I brought it upon myself, like I was the one who's inflicting myself with all of this and anxiety. Because Allah is saying there is a way without an anxiety, and that's the way of being grateful. Yet I choose to not make the intention to be grateful, and thus by default falling into this ungrateful state, which is
when
also
when I do not make the intention to be grateful, it means that I am unaware. It means that I am living in my own illusion of what life is about, of who I am. I never really stopped and thought about who I am, or it's not anchored in me, so that I forget it so easily. Because we talked about it when we talked about, for instance, you're a doctor. Do you forget you're a doctor? When you go into the hospital or in the clinic, do you say, oh my God, I forgot that I was here for a purpose? You don't, because you identify with it. But if we don't identify with being abd, with who we are, we never really, we talked about it maybe, but we have not reflected. It's not something that we acknowledged in our heart, and we have certainty, and we confirmed it, and we accept it, and we live according to it. Then being grateful is almost like inescapable, like inevitable. But the opposite is also true. When I live in that illusion that somehow as if I am independent, as if I am separate from my Rabb, as if I am taking care of my life. I know what I need. I know what the people around me need. I know what is important and what is not. And so I will never find peace and satisfaction because deep down I know that everything that I am clinging onto is actually impermanent, and I can't truly rely on it as I'm imagining. So I'm trying to cling on it, but deep down I have those fears and anxiety, and so, and that's not an excuse, as we keep repeating, because we do it, of course, unintentionally, but the belief is supposed to be intentional. So it is normal that ghafla, mindlessness, is unintentional. That's what it is. So we are responsible because we need to intentionally make a choice in our life, intentionally ask questions like we are taught to ask in the Quran, intentionally go out in the world and look at the signs in the outer world and within ourselves, and reflect and see what do they mean. Is this message, is this guidance from the Quran, is it truly guidance or not? And if it is truly guidance, then how is it's not transforming my life? There is no in between, in a sense. It's like either connected or not, either the light is on or not.
Dr. Yamina, Dr. Alia, I was wondering, here I think the context of the kufr is like kufrane nema. Yes. It's not the classic kafir, unbeliever, yes. Non-believer.
Yeah, that's true, Sister Esma. That's true. Actually, we know that the word kafara anyways doesn't mean unbeliever. Unbeliever comes from context. The meaning of the word is covering up. And so the one who intentionally covers up the truth becomes the unbeliever, and the one who covers up the blessing, the ni'mah, cannot be grateful for it because he's covering it up.
Right.
And you say, but we are not covering it up. Yeah, we're doing it without realizing, and that's that's the whole thing. Is that's why we are called to wake up and leave that state of ghafla in the Quran again and again. So, inshallah.
It's interesting,
dear Alia, I see two people joining from phone that are unmuted. I just want to check in with them. Both of them 812 numbers. Did you mean to join in and say something?
I had a question that it keeps coming up for you. I keep saying identifying yourself as Abd and with Ubudiyya. And this is a conceptual conflict. I'm having a conceptual conflict of the definition of Ubudiyya. How could you be a servant and a revered guest of God at the same time? I think that by addressing this, you might address why it doesn't come that easy for us to identify as Abd all the time. There seems to be a conflicting, embedded, an embedded polarity of sort of allegiance. Are you the guest or are you the servant?
Mm-hmm. Apparently, it is. I mean, apparent in the sense of superficially. Now, servant is a translation word. Let's keep with abd, because even servant, because we are not truly, we're only serving God's purpose in the sense that whether we like it or not, we have been created for a certain purpose, but we're not actually doing something for God. Actually, everything is done unto us. We are the one benefiting from everything. The real conflict comes with who am I, which we can not answer in the beginning. I'm going to give some clues only because it's a very profound, very deep question, and it's not easy to not only not easy to answer it, but not easy to follow for everyone unless you like Maha felt the question, because these questions are existential questions, which means we are made to ask them, we feel them, and some of us may articulate them, we may not, but even if we don't, when someone else articulates them, we recognize them. And the answers are going to be truly answers when we live them, because the answer has to be existential as well. So what I say will be only signs, and it's up to every one of us to follow the signs and to actually experiment. It's like if I'm telling you, you're asking me about honey, and I'm saying honey is like liquid-like, but thick, but brownish, but sweet. But you will know really what honey is when you see it and touch it and actually taste it yourself. So it's really about who am I? In the beginning, actually, we do ask the question, who am I? So who am I? Like in the beginning, when you learn everything belongs to God, even like everything, my existence, everything. So who am I, you say? But then you learn to ask a new question. Somehow in the journey, this question transforms or dissolves and becomes something else, more fruitful, which is, and actually it starts, subhanallah, thank you for the question, because it starts with the gratitude. When I say, okay, I don't know yet who truly I am, but it is the fact that I have needs and they're being taken care of, and I have no idea how they are being taken care of. So I start asking new questions. I start asking who is taking care of me. And it starts with the gratitude, because if I'm not grateful, I'm not going to ask who is taking care of me, who is my host. And so when I decide to be grateful, when I recognize that I do have needs, and actually if I really, really, really reflect on it, what else other than needs do I have that I can claim as mine? I can say life, it's not mine, it's not in my hand. I see, it's not in my hand. I hear, it's not in my hand. I have thoughts, I have to write them down before I forget, because sometimes, what was it? It was something very nice that came to my mind. It comes to my mind, it is given unto me. I cannot sometimes even remember them. Youth, you grow older and it's not there. So what truly we can claim as ours is those needs, and those needs makes us long for something, and we long for justice, we long for peace, we long for friendship, we long for so many things, and those things all point to the divine names, which at the end we understand that, oh yes, it makes sense, we long for God, that's where we came from, that's where we are going to. And actually the human spirit is God breathed of his spirit into clay. So clay here, the body is like our home in this world, and the spirit is from God directly. So when we decide to recognize that, yes, I only have needs, and those needs are compassionately and gracefully being taken care of, and somehow I'm being guided somewhere. And when I decide to surrender, because when I am struggling and when we're not surrendering, what do? Resisting, It doesn't lead me anywhere. So when we decide, okay, why don't I try to surrender? And when you surrender, you start being appreciating that everything is being taken care of, and then you start feeling the understanding, the wisdom is being imparted, and you start realizing the meaning of everyone realizes the meaning of his life and of life in general, like that everyone is in a sense like everyone's life is in a sense like the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, that we have given even the dreams that were given to us, they are given and they will be fulfilled if we just surrender. And so at the end, you will start asking, who is this? Who is taking care of me? Who are you? And it is only after I know him, I know my Rabb, that I can start finding an anchoring with which I can identify myself. Because before that, I cannot truly identify myself, because whatever I identify myself, if I truly question it, it evades me. It's I can't really hold on to it. It's like as it says in the Quran, it's like a mirage. It's not there. The moment I say it's here, it disappears. So it becomes very frustrating, and it can be like it says in the Quran, like, you know, falling in an abyss and being scattered. Existentially, it can be very, very painful if we are aware, and that's why people don't stay in that state of being, and we keep busy with other things because it's so painful. But if we take that leap of faith and surrender for to make a difference, for just try and be grateful, as it says here, and then the more you stay there, the more you will, the wisdom, that insight that understands the wisdom and everything starts opening up. And the more wisdom, the more you realize the purpose and the beauty and the wisdom and everything. And then we start getting to know our Rabb. And when we know who our Rabb is, then we will realize, we will start identifying with who I am. I don't want to go there because it can be misunderstood, but for instance, we say we are grateful, but then you will realize, and we talked about it when we talked about gratitude, that Shakir and Shakur are names of God. So the one who induces that gratitude in me is not even me. Like when I see something that makes me, and I feel grateful, it's not like I force myself to be grateful. I cannot force myself to be grateful. And when I am made to be grateful, there are two ways. Either I'm like the kitten who, when the kitten is happy for any reason, I could be happy like that, or I could be consciously attributing that gratitude to the source of gratitude. So he is not only al-mashkur, the one where we are grateful for, but he is also al-shakir wa shakur. And he's not only, when I'm making shahada, when I'm perceiving and receiving, he's the one who is making me realize and making me conscious. That's why وَشَاهِدٍ وَمَشْهُودٍ. He's the mashhud, but he's also, shahid is the name of God. He's the witnesser through me. And so he is the beloved and the source of love, the lover. So I will start realizing that I am a conscious mirror of my Rabb. So when I'm saying abd, I'm not using it, ubudi, I'm not using it in the in a narrow sense where it's like I'm a servant of God. Even when I am praying, when I'm grateful, what is this ayah is beautiful, subhanallah. It is saying that you're grateful for yourself, not for God. It's not like I'm doing him a favor or rendering a service unto him. ومن يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد. And it's the same as Sulaiman alayhi salam says in Surah An-Naml, هذا من فضل ربي ليبلوني أشكر أم أكفر ومن شكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن ربي غني كريم. There it was not Hamid but Kareem, most generous. Subhanallah. Because there he was talking about the blessings and the wealth and the abundance. So when it's going to take that journey, that inner journey of first surrendering and being patient and anchored in that knowing of my Rabb. And as I know him, because he is the only source of anchoring, the source of existence, I cannot define or identify without first knowing him, without first holding on to that urwat al-wuthqa, that
Yamina,
if you see what I mean. Can we ask
mention one more point with
Sister Esma? I think Yamina wants to check back with Ali.
With Maha. I want to stop here because I think maybe this is enough for those who, for the one who asked the questions, and for the others, it may be too much information, and sometimes too much information, not at the right time, may not be always useful. Maha?
I suggest, Medina, inshallah, maybe it could be a topic for one of the conferences.
One of the monthly teleconferences?
Either that, or I mean something like that. Yeah. It could be addressed with a focus. Yeah.
Inshallah. But just like here, Ubudiyya is we are bonded to God because we don't exist like the conscious mirror. We don't exist without him. We exist only in relation, in connection with him. But it doesn't mean that I'm serving him, doing something for him, cleaning the streets for him, or doing anything for him. Actually, it's the other way around. Everything is done for me. Subhanallah.
But you see, anyway, it needs a lot of unpacking, because
yes.
When you say, sometimes you do say serve, but then even if we're hosts, this is a very demanding, sometimes, hashallah, astaghfirullah, but
you mean if we're
it's true that sometimes Allah comes across as a very demanding host. So even guests.
Usually, but Maha, not so much in our classes and reflections. I know that generally speaking, that's how Muslim scholars tend to, not all, but the majority will tend to talk, because they even, as Aliyah likes to point out, usually we learn that all about our duties, like ibadah is our duty, like it's duty to whom. It's more, it's not, from one perspective you can argue about the duty, but more than duty, it is how did you call it, Aliyah? She had a nice word for it.
Yeah, I think like it depends. If you
no, but you had a particular word. You said like being a VIP, being like when you have something special. What do we say when you are a VIP somewhere? It is a privilege. It's a privilege. Ibadah is a privilege. You either take it and become a VIP human being, or not. It's not a burden. It's only a burden when we don't know what it means, when I don't know what I'm doing here on earth. I'm just making taqleed, imitating, without truly having that certainty in my heart.
You know who was a good example of duty, burden versus privilege? Your landlord in Charlottesville. Remember when he would like even to do the lawn, like to mow the lawn, he had something to do that, and his neighbor, this guy is like in his 80s, and the neighbor is in his 30s, so he's asking him, would you like me to do the lawn for you? He said, no, if you're not doing it for me, I do it to enjoy it. If you want to do it to enjoy it for you, that's okay. But if you want to do it thinking that you're taking anything off me, no, I'm not. It's not a burden, and it's a privilege for me. And he looks at everything he does as a privilege.
Yeah, I think these are very helpful, and I think maybe, inshallah, we can look at this in one full session, because it's very easy, but then sometimes it looks it's not easy. And then how is being an abd connected to being a khalifa, being vicegerent? Because it seems like you're doing something. God is putting Adam alayhi salam as a vicegerent on earth, and what does that mean? It looks like a burden, but it isn't. So it will be very, inshallah, insightful to unpack all of that. I think at this point we can take it as noted down as a cue for a future session, inshallah.
Thank you, Maha. This was a very core question.
Core question, core and cool. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so we finished tonight's session. It's almost 10:15. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us tonight. And if you have any lingering questions, please note them down. Inshallah, we'll come back to them when we meet again next week. Have a beautiful week with awareness and blessings of God and gratitude.
And let's intend, inshallah, to be consciously grateful. And whenever we realize that we drifted away, we'll make istighfar, inshallah. We'll make istighfar for not only ourselves, but all those who are in the same situation.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.